it to you. Good morning, beautiful women. We are here this morning with Tori. I literally just said to her as we jumped on, I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know what this is going to be, but I have been listening to the whispers and these beautiful invitations from Tori that there is more. There is more to what we know. I feel in like so many areas. And the area of astrology is something that you're diving really deep into, and into sidereals, which like I don't even know what that is.
So it's sidereal astrology, and so it's there's tropical astrology and then there's sidereal astrology, and I never even knew sidereal astrology existed, right? And tropical astrology is what we would call mainstream astrology. So what you believe your star sign or sun sign is, where the moon is placed, when we're following the moon with the cycles, etc. Now, here's the kind of myth that I need to bust. And it is this, that the assumption that your sun sign in tropical astrology is where the sun was in the sky, which constellation it was in the zodiac, when you were born. True?
Yep.
But that's not tropical astrology at all. That's not mainstream astrology. Mainstream astrology is actually incorrect. So technically, it's not where the sun physically was in the sky when you were born. So what we're relating to with mainstream astrology or tropical astrology is actually based on, it's viewed from the northern hemisphere, based on the spring equinox, and it's defined by the seasons, right? When they set up tropical astrology in 2000 BCE.
Yeah.
And so because they didn't know then that the sun didn't revolve around the earth, they didn't know then that the earth wasn't flat. They didn't know then that the earth actually wobbles as it orbits, right? Much like a spinning top that's kind of starting to slow down, there's a wobble that the earth has. And that's called precession. And that actually impacts how we see the constellations in the sky over time. So because of precession, the equinox actually drifts approximately 1 degree every 72 years. So when they set up the zodiac in tropical astrology in ancient times, everything's moved since then, and we haven't been moving with it. We haven't adjusted with it. So what we've been relating to in tropical astrology or mainstream astrology is a structure that was set up 2000 CE that no longer physically exists.
That's so interesting, and it feels so true, because what I have been witnessing of myself over the last 12 months, diving deeper into where I see it, where the planets are, what they mean, how they feel, what it's inviting, all those things, especially with work that I do, is I felt like something's wrong with me, because I feel like I'm behind. Like these things are coming through and it's like, oh, I should be feeling like that, but I'm feeling like this.
You're not behind.
Yeah.
Tropical astrology is too far ahead. It's not accurate. So when we had that recent blood moon eclipse, right? This is a really good example. A couple of months ago, there was a blood moon eclipse. Everyone came out to watch it. Even if you're not into astrology, people are looking at it because you could visibly see it. You could visibly see the constellation of Scorpio around that moon. It was there physically. You could see it. It was amazing. And the theme that everyone was divinating from and receiving energies through was about death and rebirth. It was about a reset, which is a Scorpio, which is Scorpio, right? And yet we were saying that moon was in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
When it wasn't. It physically was not. So this is what 13 sign sidereal astrology actually matches astronomy, i.e. you can look up in the sky, see where the sun is, and that's where it is, because that's where it is. Similarly with the moon, whatever constellation the moon is physically in, and I can recommend an astronomy app.
I was going to say, technology just
Star Walk 2 is really good.
Okay.
I think it's about $5 or something, but it's worth it.
Yep.
And you can actually search any planet, search for the moon, search for the sun, and you can see exactly which constellation it's in, to the degree. So we have now in our pockets what it took till the 1970s for NASA to have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if astrology is supposed to be us relating to the earth, us relating to the sun, us relating to the moon, right? The sun regulates our circadian rhythm, the moon regulates our menstrual cycle, and we sync to it just like we sync to the seasons. Yeah. But if what we're relating to is not actually physically happening, it's just made up.
And for me, it felt really uneasy just thinking like, how come I'm not experiencing this? How come this isn't making sense? And it's only been the last 12 months that this has come into my awareness, because I've been drawn so deep into how that relates to me, and especially my cycle. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between an intellectual thing of going, oh, okay, that blood moon was in Sagittarius, it means this is what I should do, blah, 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 as opposed to full body resonance of, oh, we're in Scorpio and I feel like I'm dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that full body resonance of death and rebirth, because that's what was physically happening, and that's what was happening with the moon. That's what was happening with your waters. That's what was happening in your womb. That's what you were physically experiencing. So why would we say, well, this is where we thought the moon was going to be in 2000 CE, when we also thought the earth was flat, and we also didn't know about the earth's wobble. We also thought that we were the center of the universe and the sun revolved around us. And in that time, we assumed that the moon would be in this constellation. So let's just pretend it still is. What? It's madness.
Yeah, because once you know more, you can't unknow.
You can't unknow. And I have seen people try to unknow and just say, well, look, I'm absolutely a Libra and I'm not a Virgo, or I'm absolutely a Sagittarius. I'm not this weird new sign of Fucus, which I will talk about. And it's like, okay, but just know that on the day that you were born, the sun was physically in the constellation of Virgo, or the sun was physically in the constellation of a Fucus. And I will post the sidereal dates in the comments as soon as we finish this conversation, so that you can see which constellation the sun was physically in on the day that you were born. And it may surprise you. You may actually learn that your sun sign is different to what you thought it was. Now, with that in mind, there are not 12 signs in the zodiac, there are 13. But when tropical astrology was created, right, when we set out the 12 and they were measured out evenly because it was convenient, even though the zodiac is not even, and now we have the convenience of this, even though the zodiac is not even, it's so easy for us to check, right? You've got to go back to history when only a privileged few had access to a telescope. And even then, it was the telescope and the naked eye and manual calculations, right? So of course they divided it up into 12 even segments that matched the months, that suited the Roman and Greek empires, right? But there are 13 signs, not 12. And it's really interesting to me because there's not much written about it. The ancient texts refer to a Fucus, the constellation that is the missing one from the zodiac. And yet it wasn't included in the zodiac. And it's at a very interesting point in history. And this is where I feel a lot of amazing women in this space will feel like a rising in every fiber of their being with this. Because if you look at history, this period of time coincided with the birth of Christianity, right? With the rejection of connection to the earth, moon, sun, planet, solar system, rejection of divination, rejection of multiple gods and goddesses. All of that was considered hokum, magic, dangerous. Why? Because it empowered the individual and meant that you couldn't be governed, right? So with the descent of Christianity came the descent of the patriarchy, corresponded with the time frame where they would have absolutely known that Ophiuchus was part of the zodiac. Why would they change it? Of course they wouldn't. Especially when the missing sign is the alchemist, is the healer, is the witch, is the one who, in terms of ancient mythology, has the capacity to heal and create immortality. And so, of course, politically in that time, what a dangerous thing. We can't have people thinking if they were born under this sign that they have the power of the gods. They won't obey us. So the rejection of Ophiuchus from the zodiac, I believe, is, and this is just my personal belief based on what I've read, and I'm a bit obsessed, and the history of it. It coincides beautifully with the descent of the patriarchy, installation of Christianity, Christianity, and this rejection of the power of the individual to divinate or to connect with the heavens, or to connect with God outside of a third party.
Yeah, because that was the birthplace of constructs and
That's
conformity.
Right. That's right. So, of course, the very zodiac that is the least conformist, that is the most radical, was cut out. Either it was cut out intentionally, or it just wasn't included because either they physically couldn't see that it crossed the ecliptic like all of the other zodiac signs, which is where the earth rotates around the sun. That particular orbit is what we call the zodiac. Either they couldn't see it when they first set up the system, or it didn't fit with their love of 12 and their fear of 13.
Because 13 is also derives from like a negative, like devilish.
That's right. And that is because a coven of witches would have 13. There'd be 12 women and there'd be the divine.
Yeah.
So 13 is the lucky number. We claim 13. Ophiuchus is part of the zodiac. And I think that's really, really important to say. And whilst I'll post the dates up for every single sun sign, if your birthday was between the 30th of November and the 18th of December, you are not a Sagittarius. You are an Ophiuchus.
Ooh.
Ophiuchus is the alchemist. Corresponding planet Chiron, the wounded healer. And so this whole thing too I find it really interesting, the correspondence between history, actual world events, and collective consciousness, and what I, as an intuitive, can divinate around collective consciousness. And I find it fascinating that it was in the 70s that we discovered Chiron, and that the whole astrological world, tropical astrology, mainstream astrology included, decided to include Chiron in their scope of the solar system. And yet they didn't acknowledge the corresponding constellation that is in the zodiac still. And they didn't adjust the dates to match with physical stars, because it was always set up based on the northern hemisphere's seasons, which is why we start with Aries. But the reason that they did that was because we didn't have the resources we have now. So it's one of those things. Sure, you can stay with tropical mainstream astrology, or you can say how I actually relate to the moon, where it physically is in the sky, is what astrology is about for me. And I certainly know that's what it was about for me. And I remember it was years ago when I first got, an app, a phone that had an app. I downloaded an astronomy app thinking I was going to be able to track my own astrology, not as an astrologer at that point, just for myself. And it didn't match. And I was really confused. And I was like, I must be doing it wrong. And I just forgot about it. And I didn't even really resonate with astrology after that. I worked as an intuitive business strategist for many years, and I had a client who was an astrologer. And so I had my natal chart read and that sort of thing. And it showed, I was on track, Sagittarius. Yeah, all looks shiny and good, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't resonate like that full body resonance, much like it was very intellectual and like ticking the boxes. And then I had an experience earlier this year where I was like, how could have I been so on path only to discover I'm actually now so far off path, yet everything that happened up to this point had to happen. I was like, what? And I was in this kind of identity crisis, you could say. And it was at that time that my friend astrologer said, Tori, I've discovered that, she's been an astrologer for 20 years. I've discovered that everything that I told you in this chart was wrong.
Whoa.
So we had another session, and it turns out I have 3 planets, not in Sagittarius as the liberator, right? All shiny and 3 planets in a fucus, and is a bucket. And Chiron is the handle of that bucket, right? So there is no, like, I'm so a fucus heavy, it's not funny. And this really moved me because all of a sudden my natal chart made sense, and I resonated with it on a cellular soul level. And I was like, of course, that is totally me in the chart. And I was like, I have to study this now. So that's how I'm here. So, if you ever feel like you don't belong, if you know that, you're here to facilitate some sort of alchemy, and your birthday falls in those dates of 30th of November to the 18th of December, and you're like, what the actual F? Sun was physically in a fucus when I was born, not in Sagittarius. And you feel that means something to you and you want to know more, please let me know. And I'll be happy to share more. And, whether it's through a natal chart reading, or I am actually going to be launching a program. I haven't created the name yet, but it's something around a fucus reclaimed, basically putting a fucus in the zodiac where she belongs.
Wow, babe. Wow. I haven't even looked into this, but just hearing you, like, you probably saw me before with my crown, like it was just like through my whole body. I'm like, just focus on what Tori's saying.
Isn't it huge? It's huge, right?
Massive.
And it's really interesting because, like, I have already started a hashtag in conversation. I think I've only mentioned this a handful of times on Facebook since I discovered it and started studying. And then you posted a beautiful tropical astrology post. And I was like, yeah, but the moon's actually in Scorpio. And you were like, what? I'm like, the moon's not in Sagittarius right now. Why are we pretending it is? It's physically not. You can see the constellation around the moon. And it's just amazing to me how few people know this, how few people know that it's not physically accurate, that it was accurate 2000 CE, but there were things we didn't know. And so fast forward to now, it's no longer accurate, and therefore it's made up. You're not relating to anything. And And I think that's unjust. I feel like that's, especially now with the divine feminine awakening, we are aware of the cycles of the moon. We are connecting so deeply with that. The moon's placement, especially the moon for women, the moon's placement matters to those women.
Yeah.
And it physically matters. And so, it's time to reclaim our power. It's time for astrology and astronomy to become two sides of the same coin again. They used to be before science and spirituality were separated.
That's the masculine and the feminine, though.
Exactly.
The logic and the flow. And you bring that back and there's the truth.
Exactly. You can't have one without the other. Why pretend that the moon is somewhere other than where it physically is? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so, there are a lot of astrology sort of skeptics out there. And I go, well, fair enough. I was one because it didn't resonate. Because as an intuitive, I know, like, I feel truth in my body. And I didn't feel truth. And I couldn't mentally force myself into that box because it didn't fit. Because it wasn't me. So, that's the difference between tropical mainstream astrology and sidereal astrology. Now, sidereal astrology was traditionally Eastern, whereby in the West, Northern Hemisphere, they set it by the seasons and the equinox, and they thought it was going to stay the same forever. In the East, they set it by the physical placement of the stars. And so their astrology is still accurate. However, I'm a Westerner. So I'm not about to start learning or teaching Vedic astrology because that would be cultural misappropriation. So this is how we've gone from tropical astrology, Vedic astrology, to the accuracy of Vedic astrology that matches astronomy, combined with the Western history of the myths, of the legends, of the culture of Western astrology, bring together for 13 sign, because there are 13, sidereal astrology. Western sidereal astrology, right? So it is Western, not Eastern, not Vedic, and it's accurate. So they're not all the same size, are they? So Scorpio is much smaller than you would think. Like the time window of Scorpio is shorter. They're not even. And I will post the dates. They're not even because it's not even in the sky. Just like when the Earth wobbles, it doesn't wobble evenly either. It's amazing that we stay. It doesn't make any sense as to how it's so uneven, but it is. So there you go. It's information that really blew my mind, and it's something that, it kind of came out in the media at one point, and then people went, oh no, because NASA replied with, it came out in the media that tropical astrology was inaccurate, and that, where we say the moon isn't actually where it is. And then NASA came back sort of saying, don't worry about it, astrologers, because astrology is not astronomy anyway. Right? And so astrologers who were paying attention went, oh, don't worry, it's not a real thing. It is a real thing. It's physically a real thing. It's just that NASA are not taking it upon themselves to make astrology more accurate. Why? Because they don't care. They're astronomers, not astrologers. It's up to astrologers to say, oh, tropical astrology is amazing. I'm not against tropical astrology. It's still the same. It's still the same lineage. It's still the same history. It's simply updated to be physically accurate.
And so much more supportive of this time and space and this opportunity we have right now.
Especially with the reclamation of the divine feminine, especially with so many people returning to, their connection to the earth, their own truth, their own knowing, their own intuition. And so Yeah, it's actually quite frustrating as a new astrologer to see the majority of information out there be misinformation based when the divinator believes it's true.
Mm,
It's like, look at an astronomy app.
mm,
Can't have an astrologer who doesn't have at least an app
mm,
to know where things physically are right now.
mm.
That's what we should be drawing on, right? Because otherwise we're just making up the placement of things.
Yeah.
And I know it's not made up, it's based on what we thought it was, but it's not accurate anymore. So it's inaccurate by about 25 degrees, which in many cases is a whole sign, especially when you add in a fucus and when you actually honor where the boundaries of the zodiac are actually placed. So it's a really bizarre feeling to have gone from intuitive guide. I've always been intuitive, clairvoyant, predominantly, but clairaudient, clairsentient as well, with a passion for aligning people with their soul purpose and their contribution and capacity to receive, to now very kind of abruptly to be thrown into this other realm where it's like, I feel like I have this responsibility to let as many people know as possible about the physical truth. Like, what you choose to do with it is up to you. But if you're connecting with the moon, believing it's in Sagittarius when it's actually physically in Scorpio, I'm like, wow, that's a real shame. We're so close
Yeah. And
to connecting you to your truth.
that's what intrigued me so much, babe, because that's so important to me. And I listened to my feelings, but I didn't have any solutions for that. I didn't have any other answer or any other meaning for that. But now, like, first of all, I would love to book a call with you so we can go through and actually see where I am and what I am embodying and how that aligns now.
Yes.
I have no doubt from my physical response that there is going to be a difference to what I perceive in this moment.
And it can change a lot. For some people, it doesn't change much, depending on, depending on your sign and depending on where your planets are placed, etc. And it might just change one or two aspects in one or two houses in terms of the flavoring there, and that might feel more true. However, in my case, all of my personal planets went from being in Sagittarius to being in a fucus. And also my 10th house, which is the handle. Having a bucket chart is quite lopsided, right? It means like, this is who you are and this is what you're here to do, and there's not a lot else going on. And seeking balance can be part of the journey, let's say. And so for me, it made radical clarity of something, and the timing of it all was totally divinated in terms of the planetary cycles, in terms of where Pluto is transiting my chart in the 7th house of relationships, crossing Mars in terms of what I'm meant to be doing, what I'm meant to be communicating out there in the world, and connecting with people about. And I knew that from a personal relationship standpoint, but hadn't pieced it together with my service. And there's a beautiful, there's a beautiful aspect there. So it all of a sudden made so much sense. And so I'm currently studying 13 sign sidereal astrology with Kelly Gunter. She also has a masterclass on later today where she's talking about this on Instagram. So I will see if I can link you up with that. For anyone who's interested in learning more, and potentially, I don't know, if you're keen to study, accurate astrology, she's my teacher. But yes, I guess my divine calling is helping as many women as possible align with the physical truth so that they can reclaim their own intuition and their own connection to the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the solar system, the universe, as well as our precious earth. And of course, I have a special place in my heart for Fucans who have until now been cut out of out of the zodiac, and it's time for us to reclaim our place as alchemists.
Yes, that is so what's needed.
Isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
No, it's like
the timing is divine.
Isn't it? I'm trying not to feel the pressure, I got to admit.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
It is, but you've known this within you, my darling.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. Absolutely. So yeah, I also feel an immense sense of gratitude and everything over the last, since I was 14. I was a spiritual seeker since 14. So I really feel like, I've been in training for the last 25 years for this to come about. And so, yeah, it just makes sense. But that kind of sense in your body where you're like, oh yeah, that remembering, that remembrance of who you really are and what you came here to do. And that's what I've always loved, helping women reconnect to. But now being able to do it through their amazing blueprint, we have a map. The universe birthed us. We are made of stardust, literally. And that alignment, that beautiful archetypal energetic alignment tells us so much, and we can save so much time. But there are a lot of, if anyone's a tropical astrologer, by the way, please connect with me. I would love to, if you're interested, curious. I know it's confronting. I'm not here to say you are wrong. That's not what I'm here to say. I am just here to say, look what I've observed. And, there's a deeper truth here. And my teacher, Kelly Gunter, she was a tropical astrologer for 20 years. And then she's also an environmental scientist. So when she pulled out her astronomy app and went, hang on, these don't match, she really couldn't deny the truth. And she said, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to switch over. You've just got to adjust your dates and download your astronomy app and learn what the physical placement of the zodiac actually is now. And then the beautiful thing is you can always check your astrology software against an astronomy app, make sure it stays accurate and that sort of thing. It's really important for people's transits as well over years, if they have a Saturn return or whatever, like what zodiac that's actually in is important. It's like
difference it makes to the acceptance or the repelling of what's actually going on in your life, because when there's reason and connection, then you can see it for what it is. It takes the power away from the uncomfortable or the expansion, whatever place you're in.
And you're just like, it's what a relief. It's like if you've been going through something really challenging and then you go and see someone, they're like, yeah, I know this is a really extreme experience. However, it makes perfect sense. There's relief, right? Because, and when you can see it yourself in your own chart, the placement of the universe when you were born, it's like we are birthed from a particular energy. There was a particular energetic landscape predominant in the moment that we were born. So whether it was a full moon or a new moon matters. Which zodiac it was in matters. It's not just about your sun sign either. And so I think in the past, a lot of people going, I don't resonate with that as my sun sign has been swept under the rug as well. You need a whole chart read. There's more than just the sun sign at play, which is true. However, we want to make sure the sun sign's physically true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think. Yes. So it's big news.
It's wonderful. I feel like it's just so aligned. I know for myself, and this questioning that I've been having inside myself.
Yeah.
And I'm so ready to explore it more and to see how it changes things for me.
Yeah, me too. And, as part of my studies, I'm actually wrapping up my studies and getting certified now. So I need some case studies. So if anyone in this divine space is like, oh my God, this feels so true for me, please comment below. I don't know how many case studies I'm going to do as part of my quals. And then I will, of course, be charging. But I think I'll just charge $222 for a chart reading, which will take, we'll spend 90 minutes together, but I'll spend several hours prior connecting, assessing, divinating, creating reports, etc. So it is a steal, and it will definitely go up to 444 pretty quickly once I've finished my formal studies. So I'm really excited though to log my 10,000 hours, and to develop mastery in this area. And I will certainly be hanging around in this space for the rest of this incarnation.
Oh, babe, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your bravery to step outside the norm and to be
what I've always done.
something that is so fucking empowering.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for seeing me in that, Jenny. It does feel quite extreme, even for a rebel such as myself. And yeah, it's not actually, I'm still a little surprised by it. It's not something, because as I said, I had very little interest in astrology because it didn't feel true until it did.
Until it did. Yeah.
Until it was correct. Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
It's an absolute pleasure. I also do just want to say, if you are one of those people who is a little bit like, I never fully got it, never fully resonated with me, little bit of a skeptic, to be honest, totally feel you. I was there too, and now look at what I'm doing. Oh my God. So yeah, let me know. And because I'd love some of those case studies as well, people who have really resonated with what they learned through tropical, and then the adjustment, that experience of that adjustment to match what was physically happening. And then also people who just didn't really resonate, or it never really grabbed you for whatever reason, and then to see if now it rings true or not. I would be I'd just be really interested to kind of gather that data, and this is the start of, I don't know how long I'll be here. So it'll be fun to gather that data while I'm around on this planet.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to know if anyone has any questions. As I said, I will post the dates. And yeah, fire away. Is anyone on?
Just having a look.
It's a great idea to check.
I don't think so.
Yeah, fire away.
I love when it comes through the phone.
Yeah, the delay.
Beck was, but I don't.
Oh, hey, Beck. Yes, Beck felt it too. Truth in the body. She gets it.
Yeah.
Life is uneven and wobbly. It so is. I was thinking about that actually, like how we perceive wobbles as quite, like as a bit of a problem. And yet, and when you look at what Chiron does, the planet that corresponds to a fucus, Chiron's orbit is out there. And like, we're made to be out there. So yeah, it's really interesting actually. There's a beautiful relationship in my chart between Chiron and Mars. And Mars is in Sagittarius. It's the only planet that I actually do have in Sagittarius. And so getting that feel for the relationship between Chiron and Mars, where it's like, oh yeah, it's this like weird and wacky dance that we do because it's in Chiron's orbit, but it makes sense for me. It will look out there to other people. It absolutely will. But it's mine. It's my rhythm. And there is a rhythm there. There is a logic there. So I think the final piece I just want to share is that we want to make sure our astrology is experiential, and it's not only in the mental realm where we're like, right, so where Mars is action and Sagittarius is a loop, so that means I'm, when you can move out of that realm into a full body experience of, oh, I can now connect with my Mars in Sagittarius, or oh, now I can connect with my moon in Gemini or wherever it is. And I have a relationship with those archetypal energies, and I work with them. That's when astrology is really serving you. And that's when, it supports you to reconnect to the whole universe and to your truth based on your incarnation this life. And that's what astrology should do. So if you're in a bit of a mind fuck with it, there is another way as well.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
I love talking to you. Always so fun. Please have me back.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I'm also going to start doing readings for the collective or guidance for the collective based on actual physical planetary placements soon. Once I'm qualified. So keep your eyes peeled for that over coming months. And I would love to share that in this space once it's up and happening.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited, babe. I'm so excited what this has cracked open for you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch the unfolding. You've got this. You're born for this, babe.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. But I mean, we were all born for something equally unique and specific. And of course, there's always a journey there. Like, I don't actually look back at anything I've done from performance through to live TV directing, through to becoming an entrepreneur, doing strategic video, having spiritual awakenings, becoming an intuitive strategist, years of doing that. None of it's an accident, right? And it's not like this one thing is my one purpose and all the other things weren't.
Mm-hmm.
They were also my purpose along the way. And I think it's often really easy when we're in that mode of knowing that we're on a path, but not really knowing, I guess, what the biggest landmark on that path is going to be. And being like, is this it? Is this really it? Or is this like a stopping point, lookout? I don't feel like I'm at the top of I don't feel like I'm at the lookout. Am I here? When you're having that experience, it can feel like this urgency to get to the mountaintop. And I just kind of want to say, if you're having that experience, even when you reach a mountaintop, what happens is you look out over the horizon and you're like, look at that fuck off mountain. Whoa. And then your journey like starts again, right? So it doesn't end. And but all of the expressions of purpose, there's a feeling in your body when you're on path. And having been very on path and very off path in my life, I just feel it's just such an absolute joy to help bring people back on path.
Love it.
Yay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I bow to you. I want to honor you. It's a lot of people, when they see my little sneaky comment of, oh, it's not actually here, get like, what? Who is, and you messaged me straight away. And you were like, I'm feeling what you're doing. I can feel this. We need to talk about
what it is. And that's what I'm here for, though. I'm here for a similar purpose. I'm here to shake things up and to question things and to find more things that are aligned and to feel that within my body. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Love it. I love it. Absolute pleasure and delight. I can't wait to connect with everyone in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you, darling. Thank you, beautiful women.
Thank you.